No Other Choice begins with a man who seems to have already won at life. Lee Man-soo has a respected job at a paper company, a beautiful house, a wife he loves, and two children depending on him. He moves through his days with the quiet pride of someone who believes hard work has given him a place in the world that cannot be taken away. Then one corporate decision tears that world apart, and the movie turns into something dark, funny, and unsettling, because Man-soo decides that if the system will not give him another way back in, he will make one himself. At the start, Man-soo looks like the picture of ordinary stability. He works for Solar Paper and has built his identity around being a dependable husband and provider. At home, he lives with his wife Mi-rai, her teenage son Si-won from a previous marriage, and their younger daughter Rai-won. Rai-won is a gifted cello player, but she is sensitive, withdrawn, and does not like performing in front of her family. Then Solar Paper is bought by an American company, and the new owners begin cutting workers without sentiment. Man-soo, who has given years of his life to the company, is suddenly thrown out with little dignity. It is not just the loss of a paycheck. It is the destruction of the life story he has been telling himself. He goes home humiliated and promises Mi-rai that he will find another paper job within 3 months. But 3 months turn into 13. By the time the movie jumps forward, Man-soo is still unemployed in his field and has fallen into a smaller, bitterer life. He's working a low-paid retail job that feels beneath everything he used to be. The family has had to cut back on nearly everything. Their dogs have been sent away to Mi-rai's parents to reduce expenses, which hits Rai-won especially hard. The dream of advanced music training for her is still there, but it is now becoming financially impossible. Even worse, the family is at risk of losing the house that means so much to Man-soo. The film spends time on these details because it wants us to understand his desperation before it crosses into monstrosity. Man-soo is not an evil mastermind at first. He is a proud middle-class man being pushed downward one humiliating step at a time. He is too old to start over cleanly, too specialized to shift careers easily, and too ashamed to admit how much he is unraveling. One of the cruelest parts of his decline is the way he keeps trying to preserve normal life while knowing it is slipping away. Mi-rai starts working as a dental assistant to help keep the family afloat. Si-won grows more suspicious of the adults around him. Rai-won becomes even more withdrawn. Man-soo himself develops a bad toothache but refuses proper treatment, partly out of pride, and partly because even small costs now feel like threats. Eventually, he hears of a managerial opening at Moon Paper. It sounds like the one chance to return to the industry that defined him. He begs for the job with a level of humiliation the old Man-soo never could have imagined. That is where he meets Choi Seon-chul, a man with status at the company. To a desperate man, Seon-chul's indifference feels like a final insult. After meeting Seon-chul, something changes in Man-soo. He begins thinking the thought that drives the whole movie. If too many people are competing for too few jobs, then the only way to guarantee success is to remove the competition. It is a horrifying idea, but the film presents it with cold logic that becomes both darkly funny and terrifying. He is not killing for pleasure. He is treating murder like a hearing strategy. His first attempt is almost absurd in how clumsy it is. He follows Seon-chul and climbs to a rooftop, planning to drop a heavy potted plant onto his head. Man-soo is nervous, unprepared, and obviously not made for crime. Before he can do it, the owner of the plant catches him, and he has to talk his way out by pretending to buy it. Realizing random attempts will not work, Man-soo creates a more systematic plan. He places a fake advertisement in the paper to lure out people applying for the same kind of paper industry jobs. This lets him identify his true rivals. Eventually, he narrows the field to 3 men. Seon-chul, Gu Baem-mo, and Ko Si-jo. In his mind, these are not human beings anymore. They are obstacles between himself and the life he wants back. To carry out the plan, he gets hold of his father's old war gun. Man-soo starts with Baem-mo. Baem-mo is a sloppy alcoholic living in a bitter marriage with his fed-up wife Ara. Man-soo stalks them through the woods looking for a clean shot but hesitates when Ara steps into the line of fire. He tries again later only to stumble into a scene where Ra is with another man. Then Baem-mo comes home drunk, chaos breaks loose, and Man-soo sneaks into the house at exactly the wrong time. What follows is messy and frantic. Bayam Mo mistakes him for A-Ra-S lover. A gun goes off in the struggle. Then Ra, exhausted by her husband and her own life, shoots Bayam Mo dead herself. That same night, the film gives us a glimpse of the damage inside his own family. Mansu rushes to a costume party to meet Mirai and immediately accuses her of cheating. His jealousy and instability spill out in front of everyone. Mirai throws painful truths back at him. She reminds him of the years when alcohol made him dangerous, including a time when he attacked C1 as a child. She also brings up his own betrayal. The moment lands hard because it makes clear that Mansu was not a perfect family man even before unemployment broke him. Next comes Sijo, a shoe store worker and fellow father. Mansu spends time with him, listens to him, and even bonds over their daughters. That makes the murder more chilling. He's learning how to mimic friendship while planning the kill. He lures Sijo to the side of the road with fake car trouble, pulls the gun, hesitates again, and when Sijo tries to run, he shoots him. This is the point where Mansu stops being a man thinking about murder and becomes a murderer. But the body creates a problem he is still not equipped to solve. He drags Sijo's corpse home, tries to dismember it in the greenhouse with a chainsaw and cannot go through with it. And someone sees him. C1 looks through the roof of the greenhouse and catches a glimpse of his stepfather trying to cut up a body. Mansu eventually gives up and buries the corpse in the garden beneath a young tree. But the secret is no longer his alone. The police begin circling, though not yet for the reasons Mansu fears. They first arrive because C1 and his friend Dong Ho have stolen phones from the friend's father's shop. Rather than let the truth come out, Mansu and Mirai blackmail Dong Ho's father into taking the heat off C1 by threatening to expose the man's affairs. Soon detectives return with more serious questions. Bayam Mo and Sijo have both disappeared and police know they shared employment circumstances. Mansu nearly slips by speaking too casually about them as if he already knows they are dead. He survives the conversation, but pressure is building from every side. Mansu tracks Seon Chul to his home and gets invited in for drinks. The scene is stretched with tension because Mansu has been sober for years, and now to keep the plan moving he must drink again. The alcohol combines with stress and pain. His infected tooth becomes unbearable, and in one of the film's nastiest moments he rips it out himself. Back at home, C1 confesses to Mirai that he thinks he saw a body in the greenhouse. Mirai digs up the garden and finds Sijo's corpse. This is the point where the movie pushes her into an impossible position. She can expose Mansu and destroy the family, or she can keep the secret and become part of it. To spare C1 the full truth, she lies and says Mansu buried an animal there. But when she calls Mansu, it is clear she knows what her husband has become. Mansu kills Seon Chul anyway. He suffocates him and stages the death to look like a drunken accident, stuffing his mouth and setting the scene so it appears Seon Chul choked on vomit after drinking too much. By now Mansu is colder and more frightening than the fumbling man from earlier. Then the story takes its darkest turn. Instead of punishing him, the world begins rewarding him. The detectives return with their new theory. Because Ra has cooperated and pointed them toward Bayam Mo as a violent, unstable man with access to a gun, they now suspect Bayam Mo killed Sijo and then fled. The pieces fall together in exactly the way Mansu needs. Suspicion lifts away from him. Moon Paper offers him the job. The family gets to keep the house. Their old belongings come back. The dogs return, which comforts Rai-1. Materially, life begins to look restored. But the ending does not feel like a real victory. Mirai knows what Mansu did, C1 suspects enough to fear him. Their daughter remains emotionally distant from him. He has secured the life he wanted by poisoning the people inside it. The final scenes make that point even sharper. At home, there is a fragile surface calm, but it is built on silence. Rai-1 finally plays her cello fully and beautifully, but not for Mansu. She performs when he is gone, suggesting that whatever warmth once held the family together no longer includes him. Then comes the last image. Mansu arrives at Moon Paper and steps into the factory he murdered for. Instead of finding the restored version of his old career, he enters a vast mill run mostly by automated systems and artificial intelligence. He is almost alone. The machines do the real work while he stands there as a supervisor in a place that barely seems to need a human being. That ending turns the whole story into a cruel joke about labor and survival. Mansu has traded his soul for a job that is itself disappearing. He killed living men to win a place among machines. He thought he was fighting to preserve his role as provider, but the system he served was never built to care whether he lived, suffered, or crossed every moral line trying to get back in. That is what makes No Other Choice so chilling. On the surface, it is a black comedy thriller about a desperate man murdering his job competition. But underneath that plot is something much sadder. It is about a society where human beings are made to feel disposable, where identity is tied so tightly to work that losing a job feels like losing the right to exist, and where the promised reward at the end is still emptiness. By the time the film closes, Mansu has technically succeeded. He has a job again, the house is saved, the family has not exposed him, the police believe someone else did it, yet nothing meaningful has been restored. Rai now lives beside a man she cannot trust. Siwon carries knowledge that will haunt him. Raiwon keeps her distance, and Mansu stands alone in an automated factory, surrounded by proof that the system he murdered for will one day discard him too. So No Other Choice ends with a man getting everything he thought he wanted, only to reveal how little that was ever worth. He beat the competition but lost the part of himself that could have made winning matter.